On August 8, 2020, these images from the residence of the Kang family caught a man breaking into their home. The family had only installed the home surveillance system days earlier, after the same man was discovered hiding on the third floor of the house. Just hours after these images were captured, 2 elderly members of the Kang family would be found dead. And a third, a 6-year-old boy, fighting for his life in a coma. The man seen breaking into the home would quickly be identified as a local man, Zeng Chunliang, who had just been released from prison 3 months prior to being unsuspectingly caught on camera. Only a few weeks earlier, on the 22nd of July, Kang Hong was woken by the shouts of his elderly mother on the third floor of his home. He jumped out of bed and rushed upstairs to see what was happening. Xiong Momo was doing some early morning cleaning on the usually vacant third floor. When she entered the bedroom of her youngest daughters, the daughters had moved away from the area for work, so the room was supposed to be empty. Instead, on entering the room, she woke a strange man in his 40s, who had apparently fallen asleep on the floor. Shocked, she asked the stranger who he was and what he was doing here as she tried to back out of the bedroom. The man quickly got up, grabbed her by the neck and put a screwdriver to her throat. The home invader told her to be quiet or he would kill her. Xiong Momo tried to break free and a scuffle ensued. Arriving from his bedroom downstairs, Kang Hong entered the room and pushed the invader away from his mother. Rather than trying to flee, the would-be burglar attacked, attempting to stab Kang Hong with a screwdriver. Kang Hong managed to avoid being seriously hurt but suffered wounds to his hands, chest and back. The 2 men grappled each other and fell to the floor. With neither man able to get the upper hand in the struggle, Xiong Momo shouted that she was going to call the police. The stranger angrily told her that he would end the lives of the entire family if she did and that he hadn't stolen anything from them. Kang Hong, concerned for the safety of his elderly parents and young children in the house, decided to negotiate with his attacker. He assured the man they wouldn't report him if he just left. The man got up and quickly left the room. Kang Hong then tried to follow the stranger down the stairs and out of the house. Exhausted from the struggle and bleeding from injuries caused by the screwdriver, Kang Hong wasn't fast enough to catch up and watched the invader escape on a motorcycle. After checking on his mother, he went to the local police station to report the incident. Being asked for a description of the man who broke into his home, Kang Hong told police that he spoke with an accent that sounded like people from the neighboring village. The police took Kang Hong to Hofang village to speak to the village cardinals. He gave them a description of the man who had broken into his home, attacked his mother, and injured him. Almost immediately, the village leaders told them that it sounded like Zeng Chunliang. They showed Kang Hong a photograph of the man they named, and he identified it as the home invader. With a positive identification of the suspect, the police assured Kang Hong they would look for Zeng Chunliang and get back to him when there was any progress in the case. However, as days went by, the family received no news. With his family still shaken and scared by the incident, Kang Hong contacted them to see where the investigation was. The police, however, told him that since nothing had been taken from his home, it was only a minor incident, and that if they caught Zeng Chunliang, they would only be able to detain him for a few days. Feeling that the police were not taking the incident very seriously, Kang Hong stressed to them that he felt Zeng Chunliang was potentially dangerous, so they would attach more importance to the case. The police reassured him that they would continue the investigation. 2 days later, a sister of Kang Hong was cleaning the bedroom where the incident happened. Under the bed, she found several items that did not belong to anyone in the family. There was a flashlight, screwdriver, gloves, and a change of clothes. Concerned that their home had been broken into again without their knowledge, Kang Hong made the decision to install 4 CCTV cameras. The hope was it would put anyone off breaking into the house again. If the police were actually looking for Zeng Chunliang, they didn't seem to be trying too hard. After being discovered in the Kang family home and making his escape, he wasn't exactly lying low. He was seen frequently around the town and was fairly well known. He was staying in a hotel and spent evenings hanging out playing mahjong. One person even noticed the injuries he had suffered in the scuffle with Kang Hong and only half-jokingly asked if he got them while stealing again. Zeng Chunliang was well known around his village as someone who lived up to the Chinese idiom 守株待兔, which translates to wait for the rabbit, meaning he was someone who waits for good things to happen to him without doing anything. His reputation was well known, with some villagers describing him as the local king of thieves. However, in a few days' time things would change drastically, as he would be wanted for the brutal deaths of 3 people. Zeng Chunliang was born and raised in Shandangchang, part of Jiangxi Province's city of Fuzhou. The youngest of 5 siblings, he grew up poor in Houfang village. Showing very little interest in education, he barely attended primary school and dropped out as his peers were going on to middle school. As a result of his apathy to learning, he grew up illiterate. However, his parents didn't seem to mind, as the young Zeng Chunliang showed a more valuable talent. One thing the young boy did enjoy was going to the rice paddies and catching the mudloaches in the water. With the amount he could catch, he could earn the family the equivalent of $3 a day. An amount that was significant for people in poor rural areas. However, as he grew, he found a new way of making money which was more lucrative and required much less effort. He began stealing, and would soon become well known around his village as a thief. In the year 2000, both his parents died, and for the first time in his life he had to leave his home. He joined his brothers in the city of Taizhou, in the neighboring Zhejiang province, and started working in a shoe factory. With very little formal education, and barely being able to read or write, his brothers got him the job. However, the work didn't suit his personality at all, and he believed the salary he was getting paid was too low. So to make money he would steal and gamble. He enjoyed playing mahjong, and would often gamble with money he didn't have. If he got into debt, he would just go out and steal to pay people off. In 2002, the police would catch up with him, and the now 26-year-old Zeng Chunliang was sentenced to 10 years in prison. He was released early in 2009, but prison, it seems, didn't reform him. He soon returned to his old habits of stealing and gambling. Then in 2012, he was once again arrested and this time sentenced to 8 years in prison. This time, prison had made him come to realize he needed to change his ways, at least for a short time. Rather than going back to his old habits, he showed a little more ambition. He returned to his home in Houfang to put his plan into action. He came up with the idea of opening a stone quarry, but lacked the funds to do it. He approached the Shandang Township cadres to ask for a loan, rather ambitiously, of 1 million RMB to get started. The application was swiftly rejected. However, the township leaders did say they could find him work at a nearby industrial park where he would be given accommodation, food, and a monthly salary of 3,000 to 4,000 RMB, which would be just over $400. Zeng Chunliang rejected the offer, feeling that the salary was too low. He would choose to go back to his old ways to make money, and targeted the home of the Kang family. The Kang family home was one of the larger ones in the township, so Zeng Chunliang thought there would be plenty in there for him to steal. He broke into the home and waited for his opportunity to have a good look around. However, hiding in the third-floor bedroom, he turned on the air conditioning, and feeling comfortable, he fell asleep until he was woken by Xiong Momo the next morning. After the scuffle and his escape, he believed that the family wouldn't report the break-in to the police, but he found out through village gossip that Kang Hong had indeed reported the incident. In his mind, Zeng Chunliang felt it was a betrayal, and angered by this, he returned to the home. On August 8th, he broke in one more time. This time his actions were caught on the newly installed cameras. If their intended purpose was to put off any would-be burglars from breaking in, they didn't work, and Zeng Chunliang continued on his revenge mission. He found Xiong Momo cooking in the kitchen. Zeng Chunliang first smashed her over the head with a hammer, knocking her to the floor. He then stabbed her in the neck and chest several times, ending her life. Going upstairs to the second floor, Zeng Chunliang went into a bedroom and found the husband of Xiong Momo, Kang Mo, sleeping. He beat the elderly man to death with the hammer. Sleeping next to the man was his 6-year-old grandson. Zeng Chunliang didn't spare the child. He smashed the boy's head with the hammer. There was no one else in the house, so Zeng Chunliang searched the home looking for anything of value he could steal. He took as much as he could carry before leaving the scene. The couple's eldest daughter returned home later that afternoon to find the horrific aftermath of the home invasion. Now the police response would be much more serious. They released a warrant for the arrest of Zeng Chunliang, along with images of him the camera caught, and a reward of 50,000 RMB for information leading to his arrest. The two youngest daughters of Xiong Momo and Kang Mo, who were working in another province, both promoted the case online. They used platforms like Weibo and Douyin to get the crime more nationwide attention. A massive police search got underway, aided by many of the villagers. Roadblocks and checkpoints were set up on all roads out of the village. However, Zeng Chunliang didn't try to leave his hometown. Instead, he broke into a room in the building where the village government committee worked, and hid in a bedroom that the committee members would use to rest during their lunch breaks. On the morning of August 13th, Gui Gaoping, a village cadre, noticed that the air conditioner of one of the bedrooms was running. Thinking that someone had just forgotten to turn it off the last time the room was used, he went to deal with it. On entering the room, Zeng Chunliang sunk a knife into the neck of Gui Gaoping. The village cadre's left carotid artery was severed, and he died soon after the attack. Zeng Chunliang quickly went to leave the scene but realized he had forgotten to put his shoes on. He managed to retrieve them as other members of the village committee tried to get to the room before he could escape. Zeng Chunliang got away and disappeared into the surrounding hills. Now with 3 people dead and a young boy hospitalized in a coma, the police response was significantly ramped up. Around 4,000 police, military and local villagers began searching for Zeng Chunliang. The reward for his arrest was also raised to the equivalent of $40,000. The surrounding countryside, as well as all neighboring towns and villages, were searched extensively. A large number of locals went to the Kang family home armed with sticks and farming tools. This was to protect the Kang family if Zeng Chunliang decided to return. However, it wasn't long until Zeng Chunliang was in police hands.
你叫什么名字？语音博主都，等一下再讲嘛，我现在站在这里。你说一下名字，不要急嘛，叫名字，叫名字，曾春亮嘛。好。
At around 4 o'clock in the afternoon of August 16th, Zeng Chunliang was arrested in the village of Hangqiao, just over 2 kilometers away from Houfang. He had been spotted by police while riding a motorbike through a checkpoint. They allowed the unsuspecting Zeng Chunliang through the checkpoint, but radioed ahead to the larger police presence that was searching Hangqiao. As Zeng Chunliang rode into the village, he was greeted by a large number of police officers waiting for him. Knowing he was caught, he got off the stolen motorbike and raised his hands in the air. He was quickly arrested, the moment caught on phone cameras by the arresting officers and the villagers who were on the street watching the excitement. Once he had confirmed who he was, he asked if they would have been able to catch him if he didn't come out from his hiding place. When police searched the motorbike, they found the hammer and knife Zeng Chunliang used in the attacks in the Kang family home and on Gui Gaoping. The day of the arrest coincidentally happened on the same day the Kang family held the funeral for Kang Mo and Xiong Momo. The only family members not present were those at hospital, watching over the elderly couple's grandson. Miraculously, the young boy survived the attack, and after 8 hours of surgery for a cracked skull and several days in a coma, he would go on to recover from the injuries. Zeng Chunliang confessed to the intentional homicide of 3 people and the intentional wounding of a 4th, as well as robbery and theft. On the 11th of January 2001, he was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death. During the trial, he apologized to the families of the victims and requested that his own execution take place soon. He didn't appeal the sentence, and on the 23rd of December 2001, Zeng Chunliang was executed with a gunshot to the head. However, for the Kang family, the case wasn't over. Angry at the lack of police action after the first time Zeng Chunliang broke into their home, they filed a civil lawsuit against the County Public Security Bureau. They argued that their mother and father wouldn't have died if the police arrested Zeng Chunliang. They sued the Public Security Bureau for negligence. However, the court decided that while there were flaws in the investigation, it couldn't be classed as dereliction of duty and that there was no case to answer. The family's 2 youngest daughters had been very active in highlighting the case on social media to help get more public attention, and this would cause one of them and the family to become the target of online attacks. These involved someone spreading rumors about the family and claiming that Zeng Chunliang didn't target the family at random. Various false claims were allegedly made by a particular individual on Weibo, one of China's largest social media networks. The false claims ranged from one of the daughters of the family having a romantic relationship with Zeng Chunliang in the past, to claiming the family were drug addicts, known criminals, and just trying to make money off the blood of the people whose lives were ended. The account allegedly making the claims supposedly belonged to a photographer with the username Laoka, meaning old card. The daughter who was most active online in promoting her family's case contacted management at Weibo to find out the true identity of the person defaming her family. She was shocked to discover the account was linked to an officer in the Fuzhou Public Security Bureau. The individual allegedly responsible for the personal attacks under the username Laoka worked for the propaganda department of the Fuzhou PSB. A photo of an airline boarding pass found on the account seemingly outed Laoka as being Officer Xinping. When directly confronted with the Xinping, whose work involved a lot of publicity photography, claimed the account belonged to a friend of his who was also a keen photographer. However, to register a social media account in China, people have to send the company a photo of themselves holding up their identity card. Management at Weibo would seemingly confirm that the account did indeed belong to Officer Xinping. A civil lawsuit was brought against the officer by the Kang family, who simply want the attacks on them to stop. They want to receive a public apology from the officer and the Fuzhou PSB, and compensation for the distress the family has been through. Lawyers for Officer Xinping have been trying to reach an out-of-court settlement with the family, which so far has been rejected. As of the making of this video, the case is still under review in the courts and no judgment has been made. Both sides have put forward their arguments and are now just waiting for the ruling to be announced. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, subscribing to the channel and leaving a comment. And hope to see you again for the next dark tale from the Middle Kingdom.